Hello everybody. Welcome to the first page of your final study guide video. So as we go through this, make sure that you're filling in your answers as we go. That way you can have a full completed study guide in order to study from. That way you can pass the class. That's the hope anyway. So let's get started. Number one, you're looking at using the word bank that's listed above. And you're going to answer the question and fill in the word. So hopefully it goes pretty straightforward. So it's looking for a map that shows states, countries, and cities very clearly. So it's not a physical map because that would show you the type of mountains and deserts and rivers and stuff like that. It's not anything about hemispheres or circles or semispheres. And it's not a globe, so it means it has to be a political map. Number two, what is the most accurate representation of the Earth? That is a globe. 3. The equator divides the Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres. Remember that they split them. Hemi means one or two. Spheres goes all the way around. So it is hemispheres. Number 4. What type of map would you use to locate a mountain range? That would be a physical map. Something that I can actually see. A physically imposing object that I can see with my eyes. Number 5, define a prime meridian. So the prime meridian, that's the line. That's the main line of longitude that's going to go north and south from the North Pole to the South Pole. And it divides the Earth into two hemispheres, much like the equator does, only in this case, instead of it being north and south, it's east and west. 6 is the equator. That's the line of latitude that runs around the center of the globe. There's no start point. There's no stop point. Right? It divides the Earth into the two hemispheres, northern and southern. So between the two of them, the prime meridian and the equator actually divide the Earth into 4 quadrants. You would have your northeast, your northwest, your southeast, southwest. Right? So they would all be in that general vicinity. Right? So it divides it into that way. But for the sake of this, we're just looking at hemispheres, 2 groups, north, south, east, or west, depending on which line you're looking at. Number 7, you're explaining the difference between absolute location and relative location. Absolute location tells you exactly where it's at on the surface of the Earth. So if I want to know exactly for where the Golden Gate Bridge is, then I want to know the line of latitude and longitude and the exact coordinates as to where that is sitting. That tells me absolute location. Relative location is going to tell me, oh, it's in San Francisco by the bay on the west coast of the United States. So it tells me about where it's at, but it tells me exactly or absolutely where it's at. Number 8, how many continents does the world have? 7. Which one's the largest? Antarctica. Unit 2. Again, same thing. Looking at that, fill in the blank. All right, so when 2 tectonic plates move past each other, what is this kind of boundary? Remember, that's the one where the 2 plates, they're moving along, and they are actually transforming the current or the physical features of the planet as they move. So that is a transform boundary. Number 10, metal rusting is an example of chemical weathering. Remember, it goes iron, copper, stuff like that. When it changes that shape, that color, that chemical composition, when it goes from brown or gold or whatever into another color, or when it goes from black or silver to that copper color when it has rusted, that is a chemical weathering. 11. A seismograph uses the Richter scale to measure the strength of earthquakes. For every whole number, you increase 10 times the strength. So strength gets better by 10 times as you go up from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so on and so on. Number 12. You're looking at a boundary that causes mountains to get taller. Remember, that would be a convergent boundary. They're coming together and pushing up on the crust of the Earth as it moves up and up and up. That is a convergent boundary. How far do tectonic plates usually move in a year? Around 12 inches, and less than 12 inches in most cases. 14, natural disaster caused by those tectonic plate movements. So when that transform boundary actually breaks and you get that movement, that quick sudden movement of the plates, those are earthquakes. 15. All major river systems flow towards a major body of water. So the Mississippi River, where is it flowing? It's flowing towards the Gulf of Mexico. Let's look at our short answer ones. So, explain how the Ring of Fire got its name. Well, it's an active ring of volcanoes and plate boundaries that circle the Pacific Ocean. It's pretty straightforward. 17. Name the 3 types of erosion. You have your wind erosion, you have water erosion, and you have gravity. All 3 of those things are going to help to break apart rock and push it into different locations as it moves. So obviously with wind, as the wind moves past something, it continually is going to be pulling pieces and little bitty pieces of rock off with each time that it blows the wind past something. Same with water. Water erosion is what created the Grand Canyon over millions and millions and millions of years. All right, it's just that constant moving of things against it, that friction of pulling stuff apart. All right, same thing with gravity. As rocks fall, they bounce off of each other. Well, when they bounce and hit something, that creates that gravity or that erosion, and it breaks it apart. So you get your 3 types of erosion: wind, water, and gravity. 18. In what type of climate would chemical weathering most likely occur and why? So it's going to be in tropical climates. And why? Because it involves that water, right? It involves that up and down of temperature. It involves the use of water. It's hot. It heats up. It gets cold, that kind of stuff. All of that's going to help to create that chemical weathering. And really what you need for chemical weathering is water. Unit 3, we're back to looking at that kind of stuff. So, question 19, it says on the equinox, remember the equinox, equal, each location on Earth is going to get how many hours of sunlight? 12. Remember there's 24 hours of day in a day. So you get 12 hours of sunlight, you get 12 hours of darkness everywhere on the planet. 20. Which one of those is not a natural disaster caused by tectonic plate movements? So that eliminates tsunamis, all right? I know tsunamis is one of our words, but a tsunami is usually caused by some shift in the physical planet, whether it be that something has, a volcano has gone off and exploded, and the water pushes into the mountain pushes into the water. That creates that disturbance in the water, which creates the tsunami, or an earthquake, which is what usually is going to cause most tsunamis. But hurricanes are not caused by plate movements. It's caused by just random weather. 21. What % of people are going to die from drowning during a hurricane? That's 90%. Most people, that's how they drown, or that's how they die in a hurricane, unfortunately. 22. The further you go up a mountain, the colder it gets. Pretty straightforward. And 23, it gets colder the further you get away from the equator. Remember, if you go north or you go south, it's going to get colder because you're going to get less and less direct sun. It's not beating down directly on you, but coming in at an angle. It gets kind of burned up a little bit in the atmosphere, and that's how it kind of works. You get a little less sun. And 24, explain why so many tornadoes strike the United States. Remember, we talked about how the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, the air comes up and over the Rockies. When it comes back down off the other side of the Rockies, it's very dry air, and it's moving more towards the east. Well, you get air that's coming up from the south, from the Gulf of Mexico, and it collides. Those 2 air masses collide there over the middle part of the country. And it's that collision of air that pushes air up, but also allows for rain and other things. That moist air mixes. It creates that heat. Then the temperature then heats it all up, mixes in. You get that mixture of both air masses moving in opposite directions, creates the shear that creates tornadoes. It's the perfect spot for tornado conditions to work because of the 2 air masses and how they interact in that particular spot. All right, hopefully that was pretty easy, and hopefully you had all of that stuff down. If you don't, please go back through the video and get the correct answers. That way you are ready and in complete control. That way you can pass your final exam. All right?